This generation under so much pressure, held to a standard impossible to measure. Without guidance, they suffer. No father in sight, no love from their mother. Not the fin for the one in the mirror. Self-image distorted, can't get no clearer. Damn, lost souls devoured by the streets. Ain't no fairy tales on yellow bricks. By their feet, only crack vials and shell casings. Looking for hope, but they still waiting. And I implore you to never give up. And like Pac said, keep your head up, and when your back's up against the wall, keep your boots to the ground and stand tall. Hold on and be strong and go against all odds, and keep your faith in God.
Today we'll be spotlighting our special guest Ramon's forthcoming business, which is Temple Builder Fitness. To get more information about this forthcoming fitness company, you can visit Ramon on IG at Gideon_0118. That's GIDEON_0118.
Liberated Minds with the host guests, which is Kay, James, Wale, and Karen. Today's topic is I'll pass off to my brother James. What are we talking about today, James?
All right, today we're discussing the Stanford prison experiment, the school-to-prison pipeline, and the prison industrial complex. For those of you that don't know, this Stanford prison experiment took place in 1973, and it was done to find out whether the brutality reported among guards in America was due to sadistic personalities of the guards or had more to do with the prison environment. So let's jump right into the topic. The first question is, based on the Stanford prison experiment, what do you see as the effects of living in an environment with no clocks, no view of the outside world, and minimal sensory stimulation?
I'll start off. So when watching that, what I gathered was, I think it ran for a length of 6 days, I think it was. And what the outcome, how they measured the outcome, it was actually cut short. I don't know what the original length of time was to be, but pretty much for those who don't know, a little background is they had people volunteer, and basically they just flipped a coin, and that would determine their role, whether they be an inmate or a corrections officer. So that was it. It's like you already know the people in there. You don't know. There was no like criminal background associated. It was just based off the flip of a coin. So by the end of it, you had the power going to the CEO's head at the end of the day. This is essentially what happened. And they went on a power trip, and the people that got the what do you call it? The shit end of the deal, that were playing the role of the inmates, they basically were tortured at the end of the day, to the point where one of the guards' spouses came in and was just like, "Yo, you need to cut this out. I don't know if this is actually who you are, and you've been hiding this person from me all these years, or are we done?" So what I did get out of this was, just within 6 days, the role of the guard went to the head, and it's like I said, it was crazy. I just watched it. I'd like to see it more in depth, but that role, that like they said, it's the role. Once somebody gets a role, the power that comes along with it sometimes corrupts the mind. That's what I gathered out of that. And being isolated for 6 days, we saw what the outcome ended up being.
You ever hear the saying that it says absolute power corrupts absolutely? Yeah. So when you give people that are not used to having control or power, and a lot of them don't even have control or power in their own homes or over their own lives, but you're giving that power over another human being, then a lot of times those people will exercise their true nature. You know, that's who you really are. Like, you are playing a role as the nice guy, but you're not going to change who you are. If you already had control, you're used to having control. That's almost the equivalent of somebody used to having women. It's not going, whether they get money or have a lot of money or no money, they're used to that. But one of the things about prison guards is what they hire in the prisons across the nation, a lot of them hire people that was in the military. Now, I thank them for their service, but they're used to handling hostile situations. So their mindset is different. And a lot of these cops out here are the same thing, because they get the leeway to a lot of the jobs because there are veterans, right? So you get these guys that was in Iraq or wherever they served, you put them in a prison. So they're looking at, you know, the inmate as hostile or bogey. And then on top of that, if you get, you know, white guards who's never seen black people, because it's all the jails is out in the middle of nowhere. Now, all they know about black people is what is on TV, social media, rap. So they are looking at all the worst they think of a black person. So they think we're all the same, or a brown person. So you put that person in a prison, they're going to run and try to treat this like they're treating a hostile territory. So everything is aggressive. The problem is when you are dealing with guys who are already under intense, or even females that's under intense stress because they're 8 hours away from their family and they can't communicate, you know, some feeling guilty over the things that they're done, and you get this young rookie or even an old vet and you put them fresh in their training. I can sense what guard is going to get their head bust, but how they're moving as rookies. Because eventually you're going to come across somebody and you're going to try to enforce your will on somebody and try to dominate that man, and that man is going to buck back. And you're going to get hurt, or you're going to get your colleagues hurt, or that inmate is going to get hurt. But the reality is, I look at it like this. Those people were exercising who they truly were if given control. I'm going to give you a prime example. You ever see like somebody like T.O.? Before he became a star, he was, you know, he was humble. He cried when he caught his first touchdown. But then you put money in his hand and fame, you started seeing a different person. So that was who he really was. He just had to take the humble approach. I look at it like this. Those people, and even that test, is accurate. And you put somebody in the control of you, that's the worst possible position you can be in life, of being in the control of another human, under the control of another human being.
Karen,
because this is the new slavery. Yeah. So you have masters that's going to be, you know, more lenient, but most of them is going to try to be dictators.
Karen, what you think about that?
Well, going to the question about the living in an environment, no views of outside world, no clocks, and minimal sensory stimulation. So with that question, coming from a nursing standpoint, Major, I'm sorry, I'm a mute for a second.
And for those watching the show, Karen Cullen, she's a community activist. As part of her background, she does many other things as well. So we're seeking her input on what she's seeing over time throughout the changing of communities and the development of new communities that they call so-called gentrification, which we all know is modern day segregation. Also, we have Ramon Hodges. We asked his opinion on what he thinks about the prison industrial complex and actually how it works. So we're asking around to find out what the Liberated Mind show can actually develop to help people see a better view of why we're talking about the topic at hand. You can continue, Karen.
Okay, so the original question is based on the Stanford prison experiment. What do you see as the effects of living in an environment with no clocks, no views of outside world, and minimal sensory stimulation? So coming from a nursing standpoint, just with sensory stimulation by itself, not being able to have stimulation of the brain, in I guess the anxiety levels go up, aggression is followed with that anxiety.
That's good.
Then you have the issue of not going outside and getting enough vitamin D, which is very important for a person's mental health. We all need vitamin D in order to stay leveled. You know, that's very important. So you have all those things that are contributing factors to this aggression and these things that play a part in being in prison, being a guard, being a guard as well as being a prisoner, because let's be honest, they're both locked down for whatever significant amount of time that you are, even if you're performing your task or if you're there because you're an inmate. So both of these parties are actually being deprived and are deficient in a lot of different things that you need to have clear mental health and clarity to think with reason, you know, and that's like the most important thing. When you're under stress and your anxiety level is at an all-time high, a lot of times you're not going to think with your frontal lobe, and you're not going to reason, because that part of the brain is the part that we reason and we say, well, I shouldn't do this because this is the consequence. So that's kind of diminished. So yeah, so there's going to be a whole lot of things that being locked down for an extensive amount of time or just a few hours a day, it will come with consequences no matter what.
Can I piggyback off what you're saying? Like, I agree with everything you saying, because if you, like, for instance, like, just for the viewers, like, I did 14 years in prison, upstate. So, like, I have a lived experience of what it's like to be the inmate that's walking them yards. So I've been in quite a few prisons. So one thing about it is, when you're walking the yard, if you're in Graterford, they shut it down. It has a wall, so you actually can't see nothing but the wall. You can't see trees. You can't see any of that. I was in Albion, and it's fences, a bunch of barbed wires. So the only cars you really going to see is the guards' cars patrolling the area. It's near Erie, so you can see a sunset at night. They have a beautiful sunset. So if I walk the yard, I can try to get my mind outside of there and think about the beauty of the sunset. But other than that, you're not getting anything to be able to, get your mind to imagine anything but what's going on in these walls. So I actually talked to a lot of individuals that's in jail. They became my brothers, right? So right now they're only getting a half an hour a day up in Albion to be able to, and you got to choose if you want to get on the phone or you want to take a shower. But you have to do all this within a half an hour. And they've been living in these conditions for about 3 months now. So now when this family, whenever this COVID thing situated gets alleviated or done, like, a lot of people are going to be frustrated, and there's a lot of tension and people can't communicate. And not only this, what the guards do, they study. So they're studying, well, if they was able to adjust for 30 minutes a day, let's just give them 2 hours a day and just lock them down, and that's less pay. So they're always looking for ways, because it's business, to cut funds and have less dealing with the inmate. I had a saying, like, my sister used to be a guard at CFCF, and I used to say, yo, do your 8 and skate. Don't take it personal. Like, don't try to be the hero, and don't bring your problems from the street in jail. If I got problems at home, chances are now I'll come to work, I got a punching bag in the inmate now. Don't be like that. So where you were saying, I agree with everything we're saying. Like, with them, I used to tell guards, you go home every day. They used to say this, well, I'm doing time too. I got 20 years till I retire. You have a benefit in this 20. There's no benefit for a lifer. There's no benefit for somebody who got 50, 60 years. There's no benefit in it, especially if he's getting abused. So I just I view it a little different from the aspect where you're saying the guard is in the same thing, because me, I didn't want to watch because I didn't want to know the time. I knew I had a certain time and it was a date. That date was 2017. I was up for parole. I didn't care about no other time. And then you get programmed to bells and things of that nature that go off for for you to lock in. You're programmed like an animal. Like animals and sheep and cows, when bells go off, they know this is mealtime. If I got a dog, if I say, they see the leash, what they do? They come running. They hear the bowl, they come, it's food. It's the same way they programming our men and women across the country.
No different from Pavlov's experiment in psychology. Now, I have a question for Ramon. I would like James to follow up with this. Being though that you had the experience from being a former inmate at several different prisons, now the philosophy of the prison system, I would like to ask you, how does that affect the psychology of the inmate when going into prison, opposed to how they feel coming out from a psychological standpoint? That's the first question. The second question is, what did you do to emancipate your thinking from coming from an inmate or from a person who made a mistake, recognizing that mistake, becoming an inmate, turn that time around while you were in prison, and then coming out? What have you been doing then? So I would like to let the audience know who they're actually talking to, which is Ramon Hodges. He's the owner and operator of the startup called Temple Building Fitness. Is right now is being started up in Philadelphia, but it doesn't have a foundation as of yet. As opportunities still come in, we're going to give you the updates about that. Can you help us out with that, Ramon?
So for the first question, I think that the problem is just like the United States of America, right? Every state do their own thing. Every prison, though their Department of Correction, do their own thing. So if you was at Graterford, it was more leeway. Why was more leeway? Because first of all, you're going to be around more blacks that, probably have family members in jail. So they're used and they know, like, you're not a bad person just because you did something wrong. So they're not going to treat you like a leper and like you the worst human being. So aside from Graterford, most of the other jails is in the mountains. So, but even some of them jails, if it's like retreat, it was like, low custody jail. So they're going to treat you different. But it's the way PA run their jails that's messed up. Like, because they train them literally to treat you as if you're always up to something. You're always never to believe you. All inmates lie. This is how they train you. Same thing in the police. The police. Hold up. Same thing that my sister just walked over. She was a CO. Same thing with the police. The police, where they train, if somebody's wearing this or somebody's doing that, they're probably selling drugs. But I might just like wearing a certain type of clothes, or I might just like a certain type of hat. That don't mean I'm indulging in that activity. But when I went to Michigan, it was totally different. I felt free in prison because, first of all, it was open. Like, it wasn't all, they gave you keys to cells. So your door was never locked. So you was never locked in. Then they gave you access to order stuff outside. The way they talked to you, the way they treated you, they wasn't locking you down for every little thing. So then it was cheaper for me to make a call from Michigan than in Pennsylvania. I was paying $6 to call my sister or my family member in Pennsylvania. I was paying $1 for the same 15-minute call in Michigan. So when and it angered me, I'm like, y'all was killing me for all these years and making it almost impossible for me to communicate with my family because y'all had a contract knowing it was an unjust contract. And you was ripping the people off and you say that you want to keep them connected to their family. So with me, I was the type of person that I knew I did something wrong and I didn't like who I was. I wasn't happy. Like, I've been through foster home. I've been through a lot of different things in life and I dealt with unforgiveness, but I knew what I was doing was wrong. So once I got arrested, I gave my life to the Lord, got saved, and I wanted to live a Christian life, like to the best of my ability. I ain't no perfect, I ain't no holy roller or nothing like that, far from it. But the reality is I knew, like, if I was getting a second chance of life for having a homicide, when I'm meeting dudes who had homicides that had life plus 20 to 40, and all types of things for the same scenario I had. So what made me better than them? I'm not. But I'm getting a level of grace to be afforded an opportunity. I need to capitalize on that. So I needed to educate myself. I needed to teach myself. I needed to stay connected to my family so that I can be, I never got caught up with jail. You know what I'm saying? Because jail is its own society. It's a microcosm of society. So the reality is, it's a currency in jail. Whether it be tuna, cigarettes, it's still money. There's hustlers in jail. There's drug dealers in jail. There's predators in jail. There's jokers that will stab you in a blink of a second, just like the street. So I had to retrain my mind to say, yo, I can't react in ways that I used to. And it was the hardest thing ever, because now I'm getting challenged where before I would bust you in your head for a thing. Now I got to try to humble myself and be patient, because my goal was to be free. And my goal was to try to, help another young brother not become another me of who I was. So I literally, it was times I cried in my cell because I wanted to go in a guard mouth, or I wanted to do something to somebody that was disrespecting me or doing something. And that created a tolerance and showing me, like, I ain't got to let anger control me. I ain't got to be what they say they'd be. And the funny thing is this: consistency will change people's opinion of you. Every guard, a guard I'm friends with on Facebook, she sent me a message, and she said, I want to tell you something. When you got off the bus from Michigan, a guard called me and said, "This is big dude coming to your block. You need to watch him. He looks scary. He looks mean as hell." I looked at his jacket, because that's what they do. They read your jacket and they stereotype you to your worst moment in life. So she said, "Well, when you opened your mouth and started talking to me, you always showed me respect." She said, "You was nothing like what they tried to paint you out to be." But that came from me doing the work. Jails is not going to prepare you to be successful. You have to do it. You have to have a circle. You have to have a team of people that's willing to help educate you and prepare you and keep you socialized. Because jail has a language. It has everything and this is why when I came home, I was working two days after I got out, right? I was making $9 an hour at Ivan Brothers and Reading Terminal, right? And it seemed like my check was like $115, right, a week. But I wasn't making that a month in jail, and I was working harder. I was making 42 cents. I couldn't even get a honey bun for I would have to work an hour to get one honey bun. So how many hours do I got to work to make phone calls? You know what I mean? To be able to, to communicate with my family. So I was blessed and privileged to have my sister and a couple other people in my life that will help me financially. And when I was at the dark places in my life, I could reach out and have a phone call like, yo, I had some people pray for me, I had some people encourage me and things like that. But the reality is, it was a lot of times I call home looking for encouragement, and I had to be the one encouraging them. So with me, I would say society wasn't welcoming me back. And to be honest with you, to tell the truth, I hid the fact that I was in prison for the first 2 years of me being out, because I didn't want to be judged. Like, I got denied jobs where, like, I was volunteering, then they hired me. Somebody found out I had a record and didn't feel comfortable, let me go. But that only fueled me, man. I let everything try to motivate me. Do I hurt? Do I get angry? Do I get frustrated? Do I cry? Yeah, I cried more out here than I did in there. But my sister asked me, yo, is life what you thought it would be? My life is better in a lot of ways. Spiritually, I need to be far better. You know what I mean? In some areas of my life, I need to strengthen. But I'm blessed, but that's not everybody's situation. Like, I came home and I had a home to go to. I ain't had to worry about, like, rushing to do different things. But I got a job, I met some good people, and I surround myself with a different circle. People are afraid of new things. So they go around the same people that led them astray and they was doing crime with and smoking weed with and then wasn't even there with. I teach job readiness classes to ex-offenders. Like, in all actuality,
Where are you teaching it?
I'm teaching at Strive. It's called Workforce Development through PHMC. But the reality is this: I'm teaching people what I had to go through. So jails don't provide you with interviewing skills. They don't provide you with any type of skills. It used to be that, but they took all that out because it costs money. So,
my bad. I apologize. Continue.
No. So what the reality is, Wale, I'm gonna share this with you. Most of the brothers, man, the resiliency that they have, they don't realize they have it. So you got guys that have come out, and I'm like, yo, listen, bear with me. I'm gonna teach you this, and we're gonna work through it. I'm not perfect. I've been there. Just they'll be trying to hustle in the halfway house. They don't give themselves a chance because you trying to look. One thing I'm glad my family didn't allow me to do is get on Instagram as soon as I got out. Like, they didn't even want me on Facebook because you know what Instagram would do? It shows snapshots of the best moments of people's life. Then you get to the comparison thing. I tell people that I train, don't look at my body because you don't have the same body type as me. Don't try to throw up the way that I throw up. You don't know what I had to do to get to where I'm at. But you in a battle against yourself. So when I finally did, I started looking at friends and stuff. I'm like, man, they married, they living a good life, they doing this, they doing that. I ain't had none of that. I'm sleeping in my sisters. And the reality is, when I started really talking to them, they wasn't even happy. So I'm depressed and I'm stressed about images. So what they do is this. A lot of times they come out here and they look at the people and they hold me up. He got a Benz, he got this, he got that, and they want that. So how do they get that? They go back to what they know, man. I changed my whole circle. So I love the people that I grew up with, but the dynamic of our relationship has to change because I'm not into that no more. So if I see you in traffic, I'ma speak, but it ain't gonna be, we going to the bar, we doing this or we doing that. No, you can get caught up in an indictment off a picture.
Hey James, that's something that you already saying about as far as the company that we keep and the company that people are around, knowing the mindset and basically the homework on people. What do you want to add on to James was talking about? What Ramon was talking about.
Yeah, no, that's basically I definitely agree with that because you gotta match up with people that's on the same level of vibration with you. Like you can't try to vibrate lower to reach somebody. You can't try to vibrate higher if you're not there yet. You gotta get around people that's vibrating on that same level with you because you don't want nobody bringing you down. You don't want nobody pulling you up too fast. You gotta elevate at your own, your own timing. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. You can't be around people that don't match your energy. What you probably was trying to do before, you evolve. You don't want to keep doing that. So, yeah, I definitely agree with what you're doing, man. Stay on that path.
Hey, what you think about that, brother?
Repeat that question though, because I missed some of it.
Yeah, the question was as far as what do you think about as Ramon was saying about returning from prison, how the streets didn't welcome him, the wrong type of company was welcoming him in reference to Instagram, the imagery showing someone the best point of their life, because we all know that on Instagram and social medias we can be anyone we want to be for that moment. So to see that, it could have changed his mindset to go back to what he used to do by having friends that was on those sites as far as that temptation. So what he's implying is that does the prison prepare us when we're getting out, or when people are getting out? Does it prepare us to go right back by jumping into the same lifestyle that we were in by the company that we're around?
Right. I would say no. And the reason I say no is based off of, if you look at if you look at what they say prison is supposed to do for someone, they say they're supposed to rehabilitate. But as we've seen, the prison industry has become all about money to where they privatize prisons. I used to work for a company, not at a prison, but they were the second largest private prison owners in the country. And this was at Job Corps. I saw the way they ran their Job Corps, so it gave me some insight on how they would run their prisons. It was all about statistics and money and getting the most for your dollar. So with that said, where's the funding to rehabilitate? Where's all that? It's just like how we see now with the defunding of the police. They're saying, listen, for every situation, police aren't needed. You may need a case manager or a social worker to come out there to help with that, because most of these people are dealing with mental illnesses. And I have a cousin down Eastern Shore, Maryland, my first cousin. He's a CO. He's at a medium security prison. And he tells me, I don't want to get him in trouble, so I'll just leave it at that. He just tells me they've been shorthanded for at least 2 years now, to where he's literally working 16 hours, 8 days in a row. So you're having people come in who don't want to be there to begin with. It's not even, if you don't volunteer, he says if you don't volunteer after your 8 hours to stay an additional 4, essentially what they'll do is they'll let you go home after working 12 hours. And the next 6 days you're working 16 hours. That's just the way it is if you don't straight up volunteer for that overtime. So it's mandated. So you have frustrated people working the prisons right now. So how is that preparing anybody if you have frustrated workers of the prison? How is that preparing the inmates how is that rehabbing them to make it on the outside? And going back to that Instagram, social media, just period. I agree. Social media, what your family did for you, Ramon, that was a big help, I'm sure, because even people who haven't been in prison struggle with social media, the facade in which it paints, where you feel like, oh, you got to keep up with the Jones in a sense. And if I don't have this to keep up with you, people are gonna fall back into bad ways. So I just feel as though the whole system is broken, and I just think that until there's actually a rehabilitation being focused, because some people come out worse than what they went in. You know what I mean? So I just feel.
Yo, you made a good point. Some people come out worse than what they came in, because you have to be careful of who you socializing with, because you can get educated in crime. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm glad, like, I surround myself with all long-term, like, offenders, meaning, like, lifers. Like, they are, like, I didn't chill with nobody else. Like, I was doing a lengthy sentence. But one thing about the lifers is they're serious. Like, they're trying to get home even though they got life, so they got fight. And they don't want no nonsense. Like, the ones that's not trying to wreck and make a name for themselves of being like a jailhouse legend. And when you look at that, it's like, man, you need to be careful, like, because you might go in a drug dealer and come out like a murderer or a stick-up kid or, anything. It depends on who you keep company with, man. And I was fortunate enough to, like, even when somebody came in my cell, like, I'd be like, not my cell, the cell that I was staying at, I get a new cellie, I would be like, yo, listen, I'm into this. Like, I love the Lord. I ain't into no nut stuff. I ain't into homosexual activity, not, into robbing, stealing, gambling, none of that. If this is what you into, tell the guards, yo, you need a new cellie. Because my thing is, you're not going to get me hemmed up on no nonsense. Like, and then go ride my coattail because you think I got some size to me. No, this is what I'm on. And religion don't matter. But let's be on the same wavelength on, like, yo, I'm trying to go home. And that's what it end up to. My mindset is to get home. Don't do something that is going to hinder my goal of getting out of this joint. This is not my home. So, because I knew it wasn't my home, I didn't get as offended as much. I knew I ain't had no rights. So I didn't try to fight for something that's not mine. If I go in one of your house and you say, yo, listen, you gotta take your shoes off. I can't say, no, I ain't taking my shoes off. I gotta take my shoes off. So I said, yo, I conditioned myself in my mind to say, this is these people's home. Eventually, I'm gonna get my own home, I'm gonna be out there, and I can set my own rules. So, all right, y'all got these rules to abide by, I'm gonna abide by them. Long as you're not physically harming me or trying to oppress me in a way that's demeaning me as a man. You know what I'm saying? So most people feel as though you have rights. When you're an inmate or you in jail, literally you ain't got no rights. Like, you don't.
And as a community activist, what's your experience when it comes to ex-offenders when they're so-called inserted back into society? What are the complaints they have as far as them being accepted in society, or even that you've noticed from people that you've known that's been served some time in jail or prison?
I've seen my brother, my oldest to youngest brother, spend all his life in prison pretty much until he was about, I think he came home, he went in when he was 9 years old, back and forth in juvie, and then in his adult life, he finally came home when he was 27. So he spent the majority of his young adulthood and his childhood in jail. So his psyche, because he dealt with so much, you know, I guess being stuck and confined in confinement. He now has, like, sometimes he has like these outbursts, you know, like he gets angry, he gets upset if he can't find his car keys, like little things like will set him off. And I noticed that that's a difference in him because, you know, he didn't spend all his life in jail per se, because he had moments of coming in and out. So you can see like the differences every time he came home. But then the last time he came home, you can see that kind of like, not despair, but kind of like, I need to get it together. Like I need to leave this type of stuff alone so that I can but it's such a big struggle when you're a grown man already and this is what you're used to and these are the people that you grew up with, and you know it's just so hard to take yourself out of that circle and that equation. And a lot of times, you know, our Latinos and Black men are reoffenders because of the company that they carry, because you know, it could be something as simple as they might not be out there doing whatever, but they might want to go out on the block and go, you know, go check out their friends, or, you know, go see how everybody in the hood is doing, or whatever the case may be. But, you know, you can't, it's kind of like you can't detach yourself from it, because it's just like kind of like an umbilical cord. It's just like, it's part of who you are. It's part of your makeup. And it's hard for people that have served time to, it can be done. You can rehabilitate yourself and really like find your way, but it takes a lot of time. Just like it took a lot of time to be in that position, it takes a nice equal amount of time to get yourself back into the mode of, because if you never knew how to live a righteous path, or not righteous in a sense, but you know what I'm saying, like go to work every day, come home, like, and it's just a routine, you know, when you're not used to that routine and you're used to that fast money or however you make your money, you're used to that. So that's what you tend to go back to. So that's what I've seen. And that's my experience with my family and friends, and who, you know, I grew up in Newark, you know, so I've seen it all. And, you know, quite honestly, it is really hard. And this prison system is taking away all our brothers. You know, we have women like me that thank God that I have a career, I have a way and a means to make money to support my children without the help necessarily without the help of the father, but would I like that help to be here? Of course I would.
Well, Wale, can I ask the question, like, because I think, like, now that I've changed a lot. I've been home almost 3.5 years, so I changed a lot. But how do we prepare, like, the women to deal with the men that's coming home from prison? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's a lot. Like, I know I'm a lot. Like, you know, like, I was like a dinosaur, a caveman coming home. I didn't know how to use a phone. Like, my niece had to show me how to use the phone. They had the church phones when I was out last out. So it's like, and then I didn't have a father. So a lot of things that my father and stuff was supposed to teach me, I didn't know. So now if I'm dealing with a woman and let's say the car tires, I don't know. I got to Google that. I don't know how to change a spare tire. So that can frustrate a woman. You know what I'm saying? And just like maintenance, like stuff that, you know, if we're doing gender roles that a man's supposed to do, most men that come from prison don't know how to do. You know what I'm saying? And women have it worse than men in prison. You know, we talk about men because there's more men incarcerated, but women have it a lot worse. Nobody's going to see women in prison. Like, she got a baby dad. The baby dad is out running the street, and the family then turned their back, and she's just doing time. So, I mean, I applaud you, sis, because that's not easy.
And talking about that question that you kind of posed, like, how do you deal with a man that's just coming home from jail? Like, that right there is a very hard thing to do, because now it's kind of like a switch in roles, like, to a lot of men. Like, they come from jail from somebody telling them when to go to sleep, when to wake up, when to wash your ass, when to do this, when to do that. So now you're coming home dictating that shit to your woman. So sorry.
That was CNN, but we don't need them. We got our own network. Continue.
But now you're coming home trying to dictate that shit to me. Now that aggression that you built up in jail, now you're coming home to me to take that frustration out on me. If you don't know how to yourself manage it. So I think that when brothers get out of jail, the first step that a brother that's really ready to change his life should do is seek counseling. That's the very first step that a grown ass man needs to do in order to get back into society and make a conscious, and I want to emphasize conscious effort to do the right thing. Because you can't just jump up and come out here and think that, okay, I'm free now, I'm gonna make all the right decisions. Because just like Albert Einstein said, you know, he said something like, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and then expecting a different result. You're not going to get a different result when you're still doing the same old. Like, there's no coming back from that if you're not willing to sit down and let someone in to help you cope, because that's what it is. It's coping with society. When you first come out, you got to learn coping skills, because you got to remember that all those demons are going to resurface. They've been suppressed, but they're going to resurface, because what the human brain does is that we store a lot of information in there in the unconscious mind, and as soon as something triggers it, guess what? We're no longer using reasoning. We're no longer thinking about what we should do. We're thinking about what is going to be like the feeling that high that we got from doing those things before, or those memories. So we're going to keep reacting the same things over and over if you don't go and get the help and get counseling.
As far as what I think about the prison complex, and as far as the revolving door, the part that bothers me probably the most is not just that our brothers or sisters are unjustly locked in these prisons throughout the country, is the philosophy that's established on the street. For example, I could be speaking to one of my many friends that has spent some time in some type of correctional institution, and if I'm bringing up a memory that happened 2 or 3 summers ago, I started to notice that the psychological path or psychological calendar that these people I'm referencing to are using is the time they spent in jail. That's how they measure it. For example, I could say, yo, remember the time when John had his bike stolen on Erie Avenue going towards Huntington Park? And he would say, I don't know, I think I was booked that summer. And when I hear things like that, that is amazing. It's crazy to me. That's the first thing. The second thing I notice when people say, I know people that actually go to jail, commit crimes, reoccurring crimes, and go to jail and say, well, at least I get my teeth fixed for free. I actually hear people say that. I have 17 of 18 friends that's been brutally murdered. One allegedly committed suicide, Actually 19, the 19th one, he made his transition naturally, went to sleep and never woke up. But as far as the prison institution, I firmly believe, from what my brother was telling me, my brother has spent a significant time in prison as well. He was in the hole for long periods of time, and it affected his psychology in many different ways. My brother was classified as a child prodigy. He was an excellent student, any school he's ever went to. Ever since he went to prison, making wrong decisions, hanging around the wrong people, in reference to what we were talking about earlier about the company that we have, that we keep ourselves in, is an African proverb that says, you are your 5 closest friends. If you look at your 5 closest friends, that's who you are. So when you try to blame someone, remember when you're pointing the finger at someone else, it's 3 fingers pointing back at you and it's 1 finger pointing up the sky. That's the truth, the objective truth. But in the prison in the prison industry, I don't think they focus on teaching the inmates or the people that's in prison, justly or unjustly, a way to adapt their ways back to the street where they won't value going back to prison. See, it becomes a badge of honor. And when I hear my friends say that, yeah, Wale, I was booked, I did this. I'm not going to say a name, but someone I know from the deep side of North Philadelphia, they're telling me such and such has got life sentence. This is 15 years ago, mind you. And I said, really? Wow, this person had everything he wanted. He had all the clothes his parents bought it for him. He was driving to school. He had all the girls, all these things. The reason why I bring these things up is because it's a roller coaster to disaster. When the parents give everything to children like that, and society dictates that they have to be this person because they have that type of clothing or that type of access to whatever, that's when the ego kicks into play. So the ego has a cell in it. The cell is basically saying, I'm superior, more superior than anyone else. So now I need a street reputation. So once that happens, the street reputation, they look forward to go into jail and become trained into an industrial army of inmates to say, oh, such and such is running to jail now, Wale. I said, listen how that sounds. Such and such is running to jail. His family is outside and he has children. He's not even thinking about coming home because they've taken a lot of school programs as far as education, college, and stuff of that nature. Guy Fisher, famous drug dealer from New York, he has a PhD, They stopped the program when he wanted to go back to school. So is that teaching someone to reinsert themselves back in society, or is it teaching them to stay on the so-called plantation inside the prison? So to take out programs that's going to better the person, for example, in high schools, in middle school, I went to Gillespie Middle School. Ramon, you know where that's at. I went there. They used to have home economics. They used to teach the young ladies and the brothers how to cook. They used to have automotive program. They had electrician program, plumbing, all these things. They can offer these things in prisons and county jails if they want the person who committed a crime or so-called committed a crime to rehabilitate themselves, to come out with a revenue stream from knowledge to help them continue to earn income on the outside, and also teach someone else with that trade. So without those tools, is equivalent to putting a person on a deserted island for 30 years and never had a conversation with anyone. That influence in morality is going to be minimum when it comes to conversation or interaction, because there's no positive influence to say what's right or what's wrong. It's all instinctive instead of distinctive. So that's why I think the prison industry is terrible, but it was highlighted in this book that the Honorable Mumia Abu-Jamal has written. It's called We Want Freedom. It's about the makeup of the Black Panther Party and the police brutality in the construction of the prison complex in general. He elaborates on the death row, how inmates in Pennsylvania, they're allowed to see their family members, but not allowed to touch them. So they're severing every type of intimate humanity connection between them and their family. So now they feel like a cheetah in a cage. They can see them and they're pacing back and forth, but they're severing all the connections. What does that do to a person that doesn't have any type of reciprocated love in a genuine form? It puts them aggressive and it makes them in a defensive stance at all times. So they wonder why inmates, as Ramon was saying, attack prison guards, because they have so much built up and nothing that they see coming positive. Even lifers, they should have programs for them. They say, well, if you do this, you earn these privileges. Okay, you done what you done, it's a wrap. You're not getting out. However, does that one decision dictate the rest of your life? Prime example, Tookie Williams. All the books he's written for children squashed Crips and Bloods beef throughout the countries. At the voice of a word, at the spoken of a word, he made a bad decision in his life, allegedly. He killed people, allegedly. I wasn't there. However, it's not about how you start the race. It's how you end it. So if you make a bad decision in the beginning and you can influence hundreds of thousands of people to stop committing crimes, stop hanging around those bad people, and actually try to educate themselves from the miseducation that we've been given in this country, which is basically the real estate of crime to me, the lack of education. So the lack of education influences to the person. So that also translates into racism, because we can't have racism in skin and not having education. Education reinforces it. So it makes us feel that we're not doing anything. We don't have anything in life. We're nobody. So by the time we go back out to the street, we have that mentality, I have to survive. I don't care about you. And we go right back in, keeping it real to the people that keep it real, that we're just chattel on a slave plantation.
Yo, Wale, man, you never spent the day in prison, but you hit the hammer on the nail, bro. And that's the benefit of having knowledge and wisdom, bro. Like, I tried to apply for school when I was in prison, right? And they told me, because I started off with a 17 to 45 year sentence. You know, grace of God, thank God, I got back in the court and they knocked it down. Within a month, they called me back down, knocked it down. I got it knocked down to 12 to 35. So I'm still going to be on parole for maybe like 17 more years, right? But it's a blessing. I don't feel like I do what I got to do. I go by, you know, I know that I got walking papers, but they can come take them papers anytime. So I live my life accordingly. But I'm going to share this with you. They told me, like, I wanted to learn. But they told me you got to be 2 years to your minimum in order to, you know, benefit from any of the classes. So you mean to tell me I got to sit stagnant for 10 years before I can get any form of education? But like I said, I am truly blessed that God has blessed my family to be able to provide for me so that I can get schooling outside of, you know, the prison walls. But most people don't have that. Like, you know what I mean? So I took drug and alcohol treatment classes and things of that nature, but I had to pay out my own pocket. Because what they saying is this: we're going to give you a basketball, we're going to give you a football, we're going to give you chess, we're going to give you checkers, we're going to give you games. Play games, entertain yourself. Like, just don't bother us, but we're not going to give you no knowledge to be able to do differently. So when you said that, I was just like, yo, bro, it's like you've been there. Like, they're not affording the people, whether you lifer, if you're a lifer, you still should be able to educate yourself. If you got 30 years, educate yourself. Because what y'all saying is, we're the Department of Corrections. I had to write most of the people in there that, especially these younger guys, can't read. The No Child Left Behind thing failed our schools in Philadelphia, yo. I had to read Sally's letters, like their girl. You got a whole girlfriend or wife or baby mom, and you can't read what they're writing because you dropped out of school. And they've been passing you along since the 3rd grade, and you can't read. You can't write a letter. I had to write people's versions. Like, The crazy thing is, I was writing people versions and they was getting out of jail. I never had a write-up in upstate, right? They gave me a hit and said I manipulated the system because I'm a violent offender and I had never got in any trouble. Why can't I change? Like, you know what I mean? So you wanted me to go out there and wreck out and go upside people's head for a period of time, then chill later. But old heads was telling me like, yo, Mo, you need to, you know, get a write-up. Like they was telling me early on, get a couple write-ups because they're going to say this. But I was like, yo, I'm not going, this is my character, who I am now. I'm not going to just be doing things because just to do them so that I could be, but they wound up giving me a hit. But the people I was writing letters, to be honest, a lot of them wasn't equipped to come home because they didn't have an education. If you can't read, how you going to fill out a job application?
Facts. Right.
So all you can do is hustle.
Uh-huh. Yo, so
Thanks.
yeah, so that kind of like, you know, dives into like the prison industrial complex, like how it's designed. So I know earlier we touched on the Stanford prison experiment. Do y'all think that the Stanford prison experiment was used as a way to construct the prison industrial complex?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, take it away, Karen. Take it away.
I say yes. I did a little bit of research. The NAACP website says 1 in 17 white men will end up in jail. 1 in 6 Latinos will end up in jail. And 1 in 4 Black men will end up in jail, and even more women. And a lot of times they don't even talk about how much women are being arrested nowadays at a much higher rate than men are. So the reason that this is a big booming business is because, well, for starters, you have slavery. When the jail system is part slavery, the 13th Amendment, to be exact, institutional racism, the war on drugs, policing, the private industry, and the immigration policy. So these are all the tactics that they use in order to make sure that they're locking up enough individuals every year. And then when it comes to appointing the judges that sentence these people, most of the time, these decisions are not made by the people. These decisions are made by the billionaires, by billionaires and corporations.
Wow.
Because these judges, it says many judges are elected by voters, and they've been shown to give harsher sentences during the time of election. So usually around election time, judges usually give more harsher sentences. So you have, in recent years, 50 to 60% of political donations for key judge positions come from lawyers, lobbyists, and business interests and massive corporations. So this is just like a business, like any other business. You know, they need a certain amount of people to continue to get locked up. So they have to have all these different ways to lock people up. And most people that are locked up haven't even gone to trial yet. Most of those people can bail out. But because these people don't have the financial means to bail themselves out, they sit in jail to await their trial. And while they're sitting in jail awaiting their trial, they're being used as slaves. They're being, like, pretty much their labor is, being used by people like Starbucks. And I mean, the BP oil spill that happened a few years back. Do you know that BP spill was cleaned up by mostly inmates? Oh.
That and they're doing that with construction sites as well. But how about this? If you remember in the news around about 2011, there was a judge that was found in a huge scandal, and he was sentenced to 28 years for, check this out, 28 years for literally taking over $1 million in bribes to send brothers and sisters to privately owned prisons. That's just the first one. His name was Judge Mark Cariello Jr., you know, and that's I believe that's out of New York or something like that. I think it's out of New York. Excuse me, it's a Pennsylvania judge, hometown, Pennsylvania. Why am I not surprised? They have a Rizzo statue in front of a municipal building. It should have been decapitated by now. But anyway, this ain't Facebook. I can go in. So look, seriously, gloves off. Boop, boop. Long as the truth, that's all that matters. But also, I would like to touch on. I had a question for you, Kay. As far as like in New Jersey, what you were seeing as far as the in comparison between Camden, Newark, and other places like that, in comparison to where other places in Jersey, as far as the prison, any friends that you have, do you have any friends that have been serving any time in any prisons in Jersey, and compare it to the type of so-called judicial system of Pennsylvania? That's what I would like to know.
Nah, most people I know is in Philly.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
I actually did time with dudes in Jersey. That one of my good friends, he did time in Jersey. In Jersey, they're more lenient than PA. Like where like it's like flat time. So PA give you a 5 to 10 or a 7 to 20, and they can keep, even though the judge saying, yo, you do the minimum of the 7, if you run across a parole board member, they can and think you got 2 less of a time, they can keep hitting you. But I think the worst place I was locked up is Texas, yo. Texas is crazy, man. Not just legally, but the mentality of the inmates. Like, I ain't gonna lie, like, God was gonna have to do a major work on me to keep me from not, like, if I would have had to stay out there, because I had to get extradited from Texas back to Philly because I was on the run. But I did like 90 days in Texas, and it was crazy, yo. I'm talking about crazy. The racism is through the roof. Everything is segregated. You stay with your own kind. It's Aryan nations, it's this gang, it's the Mexicans gangs, and it's just it's like prison movie type gang, like jail, like in PA you can pick a side, and if you chill, most likely it'll be chill. But in a place like Texas, you have to choose a side, and and if you religious or spiritual, you better stay in that. If you dibbling in that, somebody going like, it's just crazy. It's like, and then they'll kill you in a blink of an eye in Texas. Like far as, the death penalty. Like where PA, you'll be in death row for 30 years. No, you get the death penalty, you'll be dead in 5 years, like, or sooner. Like they getting rid of you. So Texas, that's some place you like, and then they've got a lot of privatized jails. Like when I used to like Bob Barker when I was growing up because my great grandma used to watch it. But he owns a lot of the stuff that's in the prisons. Yep.
Oh,
Bob Barker, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Found that out
a lot of people don't realize that. But you know why he started it? He wanted to get his son something from prison. They was like, no, he can't get that. So Bob Barker said, I'll buy it for the whole block. So they wouldn't allow him. So he said, you know what? I'm going to make a business out of it. So Bob Barker, a lot of his money come from prison. Michael Jordan, a lot of his money come from privatized prison. That's how he became a billionaire, not by the sneakers.
That's a different Michael Jordan, though.
Yeah, it's a white guy.
Oh, it's a white guy. I read it, Michael Jordan. I'm like, yo, but these guys is like, they caking. So one thing about privatized jails is this, that they got a contract with the judges that they have to keep the jails populated 85%.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, they can't let people go because they got a contract with the judges. So they got to keep these jails filled. how you gonna keep the jails filled? You gotta keep locking people up. And you gotta give people a lengthy sentence so that they can't come home.
That ain't justice.
That's not justice. That's just you being a creep, taking a bribe. And you not, my thing is this. You know, like in the street, right? If there's a shootout, you shoot me and I'm shooting at you. Why are you gonna give me a life sentence? But what they doing is this. It's wrong. I'm not saying me taking your life or you taking my life ain't wrong, but it wasn't malicious. First degree murder is premeditated. If I'm defending myself, why are you giving me a life sentence? Because you're killing two birds with one stone. You got one dead black person and another we're going to give them a life sentence. And then we don't have to deal with them. I was sharing with somebody the other day. I said, a woman, I said, the black man is under attack. They don't, you know, it's not that they don't care about the woman. They're willing to help you. But they want to eradicate and get rid of us. So ship us away, lock us down, make you devalue us by putting you on welfare and saying, we'll take care of you, just don't have the man in. Everything is strategic, man. They are playing checkers, but we're not waking up and seeing the moves. You can't think about this one move. You gotta think 5, 6 moves ahead in order to really capitalize. So I'm privileged to be on this show with y'all because I'm with brothers who have the knowledge and the wisdom. And y'all ain't been through the life I live, but together when we combine experience with the knowledge and when we like bring it together, we're able to have impact. But this is the type of stuff that needs to be shared, man, because the reality is if they get you to act out in anger, they got you. You need to be mad that they're doing what they're doing, but attack them where it hurt. Vote. You know what I mean? You worrying about Trump. Trump is not really, he's affecting us, but you know who affecting us? The judges, the DAs. These cops is mad about Krasner. I'm gonna send you a John Wale that I had to do when I first came out. And now cops is mad at Krasner, Larry Krasner. Why? Because they saying he's criminal friendly. No, he's just giving he's affording blacks the same opportunities the whites is getting.
Exactly.
The whites was getting slapped on the wrist for cases. So they want us to get slammed like we've been doing. And he like, no, listen, we're gonna give him a 5 to 10 for that. When before he was getting 20 to 40. Or he's a child. Let's put him in a treatment program and allow him not to get a record and just, see if we can help him and not send him to jail and no, they don't like that. And the cops is, man, I got friends that's cops. Like, I used to be against that, but now I've changed. I'm not a criminal. I pay taxes. I do all that. Like, you know what I mean? So I can be friends with a cop because, I don't indulge in that activity. Like, you know what I mean? So I talk with them and they be like, man, Larry Krasner. I'm like, listen, bro, and these is black cops, not white. These black brothers. And they've been trained to see things from a lens that they've been indoctrinated with by the police. And they see us as a threat, or why he should have got this amount of time. No, bro, we've been getting hammered, and white people been getting slapped on the wrist. I get caught with a ounce of crack. He get caught with 2 bricks of coke, and how he get less time than me?
Facts.
How? It's not even mathematical. We gonna make 60, 70 grand. I'm gonna make $200.
Well, how about this? The first degree murderer, Dylan Roth, the white boy, who went in that church and murdered all those people and admitted it. Instead of him being, assassinated on sight because he was armed and all that stuff in the process of doing it, they locked him up, took the cuffs off him, allowed him to go to Burger King. He ate a whole value meal in Burger King, came out, then put the cuffs on him, then let him sit in the back seat, then took him to jail. Now,
how do you explain that?
That was my next words. How do you explain that? But it's rhetorical. It's because it basically shows how they think, what they think of us and we're not standing up doing anything about it until the George Floyd incident that's been getting so much tread on it. Mm-hmm. So as we're exposing, and other people are so embarrassed, and they're seeing their own lack of voice, Michael Jordan included, and other people as well. It's so much momentum behind it. They're forced to recognize it. People that have the cowardly mentality of, as long as it doesn't affect me directly, I don't care. So basically, the nature of this show is the same thing. It's basically about when the roles reverse, how does that affect? But we're talking about prison reform, you know? And it's a difference. When you put that kid who gets everything in a situation, he most likely is on a guidepost to go right to prison. Once he gets out, he comes do the same thing over again. The same thing, and the prison's not helping. So this role reversal thing is a consistent thing. It's proven by the judge that was selling people to prison. It's a cycle. It's a cycle that we have to step out of.
Yeah. Sad, man. And to add to that, arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor. That's it.
Exactly.
Right.
That entire situation is brutal. It's appalling, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy. And that guy, he was posting on about his fiance or something the other day. Who is it? The DA or something? Georgia? Some guy. It's a black guy. And he posts all these pictures on Instagram of his fiance, who is a white woman. And like, these police officers are so free. Like, I'm like, go figure. But then I found out that he's one of Trump's boys.
Oh,
so it makes sense.
Y'all remember that one case with the white boy? I think it was a DUI and he murdered something. What was it? Affluenza. They said he suffered from.
Oh my goodness, that was the weirdest case ever.
Right. So I mean, we see these cases that are blatant right in front of us, but it's like Karen had mentioned, the 13th Amendment is where you can legally enslave people here, post African enslavement, but post the Maafa. But my whole thing is it goes like this. You make up, what is it, like 23 cents on average? So I read somewhere that they said like 23 cents on average, somebody may make up to $500 a year. That's like a maybe. So then you have these corporations benefit, and this goes back to James' first, to his question about the industrial part of it. So you have these companies getting cheap labor. I believe they said on average they make about $500 million worth of prison labor. This is what these mega corporations are getting just from people being enslaved. So we know it is a business thing. It's a business arrangement. Because when you have cases, whatever happened with that case with that judge though? Did they go back and look at all of his cases? And
I'm not sure if they how do you call it, redacted any of his cases, if that's the best way to say it. But I know he received a 28-year sentence. But I don't see anything about him.
I mean, there's, like we said, there's so many instances that we can name. I'm sure we can name enough to run 10 hours straight. But my point is, what's the punishment involved? There's not a steep enough punishment involved on those people that violate, that are basically predators upon people that have been caught up in the system. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna make a deal with you to fill this prison. The way that these private prisons work, if it's anything like how it worked if it's like government contract, I know if you're allotted a certain amount of money and you have to use up that money if you want to continue to get it. If you fall short of it, they reduce your money. So if that's the same way it works with bodies, filling up these prisons, you can see how the slightest thing they can throw you in prison for. Over here in Jersey, I know they're trying to pass I think they just decriminalized marijuana, but they want to make it recreational. But the holdup is, I know the Republicans don't necessarily want to take it off people's records. That's the biggest ordeal. If you're going to be selling it, making it recreational, it's booming business. Why are offenders that are locked up, why would they remain locked up for something that now anybody can make money off of legitimately. And why would you stain their records with that? Like you said, it's all preconceived. It's to the point where it's like, you guys are second class citizens, and you know that this country is for us at the end of the day. And I think that's what it boils down to. Yeah, you have people that have done something and they have to do their time. But at the same time, once you throw in that institution of racism, once you institutionalize racism and it's systemic, there is no balance. There's no balance. Like we were just pointing out, how you could be a Caucasian and get a slap on the wrist for the slightest thing. We seen it back in the crack era with the crack, how they were throwing people in prisons for crack versus cocaine, because you know where people sell crack mostly versus where you're gonna buy cocaine. So it all boils down to racism. I'd like to see in a majority white state, how many of those inmates are doing time for the stuff that we would get locked up for. And you know what I'm saying? I would just like to see what the statistics is on that, because it's as clear as daylight, but yet it still goes on to this day. You have people getting locked up. Oh, the DNA, they did 25 years. The DNA came back, said, oh, this person wasn't the offender. A prison literally gives somebody $1 million and say they should be happy with that. 25 years of someone's life.
And then they have to wait more time before they're released. Yeah, you're released in 10 more days. Instead of finding out, they found out 10:01. That person should be out 10:02.
Right.
Like, come on.
I think it's just, I mean, it's a lot of work that need to be done, but I think that, you know, the people needs to gather. Like, it can't be a few can start it, but I'm talking about everybody needs to link together and speak up on it. And most of the time, where we don't vote, we're not exercising our right to vote when our ancestors was killed for trying to go. You know what I mean? Literally hung and beaten, and they would try to invoke fear on them because they knew it was power in your vote. Like, I'm saying a lot of the things that we neglect, like reading. Like I'm saying, like, you got people that don't value little things like reading. Like, where they was getting killed for trying to learn how to read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, it's like, when we gonna wake up and realize it's knowledge in the books? Like, we need to figure out the game. Like, and they know, like, you know the saying, what they say, you want to hide something from somebody black, put it in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say. Like, it's a reason why they didn't want you to read the Bible, because they knew that I can control you by religion. You know what I mean? There's a reason, and we are still not waking up, but we rather sedate ourselves with the L. And as you was talking about, think about prohibition. You know how many people died and went to jail during prohibition?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, literally, tons of people was getting killed. Like, they was wiping people out about prohibition. But the government is like this. If we can't make money off it, then it's illegal. You knew alcoholism, the detox from alcoholism is one of the most dangerous detox. That and heroin. Mm-hmm. However, y'all know this, but y'all gonna sell it because y'all can profit off it. Weed is probably one of the lessons where it's medicinal factors that's beneficial for people. You know what I mean? But all this time now y'all gonna say, oh yeah, you know, we see the benefit. No, you see the dollars.
Exactly.
You see the dollars. And because you went in on it, y'all like a game. Y'all running this joint like a game. Like, y'all like, yo, if a penny get made in the hood, I went in. If they can't tax it, it's wrong.
Yeah. That's something that we see all the time. Anybody have any final thoughts or any wrap-ups or any conclusions?
I just wanted to add to what Ramon was saying, that I think what it all comes down to is not only does the 13th Amendment, make slavery still a thing, but mental slavery is strong in a lot of people. If you can enslave people's minds and keep them there and make them dependent on the system, or believe that they're supposed to be where they're at in the system, it's so easy to control them. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a bunch of people that's willing to unite and willing to rise up out of this and even practice something small as group economics. Like group economics, if we got on one accord and one page with that, we would be able to prevent any kind of situation where brothers and sisters will even have to do anything that will remotely get them even close to prison or jail. But because of the mindset that's been, you know, programmed into us, it's like it's preventing that from happening. And we got to find some way to break those chains and everybody. So yeah, that's all I had to add to that.
Yeah, I want to introduce everybody else to our special guest, Brother Ramon. So you got any couple of closing things that you want to put about your business, Ramon, or what?
We still getting off the ground, but I just want to thank y'all, man. It's truly been a privilege and honor, man. Like me being a Christian, a lot of people got a false view of Christianity, man. It say expose all works of darkness. That's biblical. So what they're doing to Black and brown and using systemic racism and just injustice on a whole nother level is darkness, man. And I got to speak up on that. And I've lived it. And a lot of people that I love is living it, man. So I thank you, man, Wale, man. The way we met is crazy, but you my brother for life, man. I'm telling you, man. It's truly an honor to know you, man. And you introducing me to other brothers that's like, man, like a wealth of knowledge that I received. Like y'all teaching me, and I'm just like, man, I'm putting the jewels on, man, and I'm gonna apply it in my life. And hopefully, when this thing get out here, man, people will listen and people will recognize what we're dealing with, man, and further educate themselves, man. You know,
definitely gonna have you come back once again. It's another episode of Liberated Minds. You got Brother K, you got Brother James, you got Sister Karen, our special guest, Ramon. We're going to be back for another show. You got me, Wale. Holla at you next time. Boop.
Peace.
Peace.
This generation under so much pressure, held to a standard impossible to measure. Without guidance, they suffer. No father in sight, no love from their mother. Not the fin for the one in the mirror. Self-image distorted, can't get no clearer. Damn, lost souls devoured by the streets. Ain't no fairy tales or yellow bricks by their feet. Only cracked valves and shell casings. Looking for hope, but they still waiting. And I implore you to